smoke filled the ruined valley. The sky, once bright, was now black with fire and falling ash. Metal beasts groaned in the distance, half buried in the dirt. The ground was torn open, like the planet itself had cried. Somewhere in that mess, something moved. A weak hand, shaking, reached up through the mud. Fingers dug into the cold earth, trying to pull a broken body forward. She coughed. Her lungs were full of dust and pain. Her armor was cracked, her breathing short, and one leg wasn't moving at all. The alien girl didn't know her name anymore. Her mind was blurry, but one word stayed: run. She didn't know why she was alive. Her squad was gone. The enemy didn't care about survivors. Yet she was here, alone, hurting, not dead. She crawled slowly, inch by inch, until her strength gave up. Then she dropped face first beside a rock and whispered, "Help me." No one heard, but far above, in the thick trees beyond the blast zone, a man was watching through binoculars. He was human, young but not new to war. His uniform was dirty, patched up many times. His gear was old, but his eyes were sharp and steady. Mason had been scouting enemy patrols when he saw movement down in the blast field. He focused the lens, adjusted it, and frowned. "That's not one of ours," he muttered. He tapped his headset. "HQ, I've got visual on a survivor. Female, not human. Looks badly injured." A voice crackled back. "Negative, Mason. We're pulling out. Evac is already full. Leave her." Mason stared at the tiny figure below. She was barely moving. Her arm lifted, then fell again. He turned off the radio. Then he started running. It took him 20 minutes to reach her. The smoke made it hard to breathe. His boots slipped in mud and ash. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to do. She looked up when she heard him. Her eyes were wide, dark, and full of confusion. She tried to push herself up but failed. Her mouth opened. "Kill me," she whispered, voice dry and broken. Mason knelt beside her. "I'm not here to kill you." She blinked. Her head tilted like she couldn't believe his words. "I'm human," he added, "but I don't leave people to die, not even you." She laughed. It was a weak, bitter sound. "You're too late." He gently lifted her into his arms. She was light, too light, bones pressing against skin. He could feel where her ribs were cracked. Her left leg was twisted wrong, bleeding through a broken suit. "I've got you," Mason said. She passed out in his arms. Back in the woods, hidden in an old transport shell, Mason laid her on a medic cot. He had supplies, barely. Not enough for a full rescue, but maybe enough to keep her alive. He worked fast, cut away the bent armor, cleaned the wounds, stitched what he could. He even rigged a brace for her leg using scrap metal and tape. It wasn't perfect, but it was hope. Hours passed. Finally, her eyes opened again. She looked around, confused. "You're still alive," Mason said, crouched beside her. She tried to sit up, then winced. "Why?" "Because no one should be left behind," he replied. "Not even an enemy." "I'm not your enemy," she whispered. "I know," Mason said. "Not anymore." For a moment, they just stared at each other. There was silence. Not the kind that hurt, but the kind that made room for something new. She reached up and touched the brace on her leg. Her fingers trembled. "You did this?" she asked. Mason nodded. "I'm not a doctor, but I fix things. I try." Her lips trembled. No one ever tried before." Then her eyes filled with tears. And Mason just stayed there, silent, letting her feel it, letting her be a person again. Asterisk. The small shelter was quiet, except for the soft sound of rain tapping the metal roof. The alien girl lay on the cot, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was better now. The pain in her leg was still strong, but something inside her had started to change. She was still alive. Mason stepped into the room, carrying a steaming bowl. The smell filled the space. Simple food, but warm. "I made something," he said. Not much, but better than field rations. She tried to sit up. Her arms shook, but she managed to push herself halfway. Mason helped her the rest of the way. Placing a pillow behind her back, she looked at the bowl. "What is it?" "Soup," Mason answered with a small smile. "Human style." She took the spoon slowly. Her fingers were still stiff. She lifted it to her lips, and her eyes widened. "It's good," she whispered. Mason sat nearby. "You've been asleep for 2 days. Infection tried to take your leg, but you fought it. Strong body, stronger will." She blinked. Then her voice came softly. "You saved me," Mason shrugged. "Just kept you from dying. You saved yourself." She looked down. "No one ever tried to keep me alive before, on my world. If you fall, you are left. Weakness is not allowed." He looked at her carefully. "Maybe your world needs better rules." A strange sound left her throat. A small laugh. "What do I call you?" he asked. "You never said your name." Her eyes looked tired. "Names are only given after war trials. I have no name." Mason frowned. "That's not right." She looked at him. "Do all humans think like you?" He shook his head. "No. Some would have left you. Some follow orders. Some fear what they don't understand. But not you. I grew up fixing broken things. Machines, tools, people. I guess I couldn't walk away from one more thing that needed fixing." She looked down at her wrapped leg, then back at him. "Then give me a name," Mason blinked. "You want me?" "Tio." "Yes," she said. "If I am alive because of you, then let me start new." He nodded slowly, thinking. Then he said, "Lyra." Her lips parted. "What does it mean?" "It's an old word," Mason explained. "From a constellation, a bright one, in the darkest sky." Lyra said nothing for a long time. Then she whispered, "Lyra." She touched her own chest softly, like she was holding something precious. That night, the rain turned harder. Wind shook the trees. Mason locked the outer hatch and checked the power cells. The lights flickered once, but held. He sat near the cot, just watching her. She looked at him. "You don't sleep?" "Not much anymore," Mason said. "The war changed that." Lyra turned her face toward him. "I watched humans fall from the sky. I thought you were monsters. And I thought your kind would tear us apart." They both smiled sad smiles. "Why do we fight?" She asked. "Because someone tells us to," Mason said. "And we forget to ask why." She slowly reached out her hand. Her fingers shook as they stretched toward him. Mason didn't move. He let her touch the edge of his hand. Her skin was cooler than his, smooth and slightly pale. But the warmth between them was real. "I still hurt inside," she whispered. "Even more than my body," Mason looked at her gently. "That will take longer to heal, but it can?" He nodded. "If you want it to," she closed her eyes. "Then stay." "I will." And he did. Outside, war still burned the sky. But inside that small shelter, something rare was happening. Trust. A broken alien girl had been given a name. And for the first time in her life, she was not alone. The days passed slowly, but Lyra grew stronger. She could now sit on her own. Sometimes she stood for a few seconds, using the edge of the table for balance. Her legs still hurt, but the pain didn't stop her anymore. Mason watched her from across the room, sharpening a blade on a flat stone. His hands moved with care, but his eyes kept checking her, just in case she fell. Lyra noticed. "You don't have to keep staring." "I know," Mason said. "But I'd rather catch you before." "The floor does," she smiled. "You still think I'm that weak?" "No," he said, setting the blade down. "I think you're brave. Even when you're afraid." Lyra looked away, thinking. "I wasn't trained to be brave. I was trained to win. Or die." Mason stood and walked over. "Maybe now you can learn something better." She looked up. "Like what?" "Like how to live." They shared a quiet moment. The wind outside blew gently now. The storms had passed for a while, but something heavier was coming. Later that night, Mason sat by the radio. He turned the dial slowly, trying to catch a signal. He hadn't heard anything from HQ in days. Nothing but static and distant chatter. He didn't want to worry Lyra. But she noticed. "You expect trouble," she said. "Something feels off," he replied. "Too quiet. No patrols. No drones." She thought for a second. "When my side pulled back, they left something behind. A sweep team. To clean up survivors. And destroy anything that might speak." Mason's jaw tightened. "You mean me and me," she added. "They don't want anyone telling the truth." "What truth? That peace is possible." Mason exhaled slowly. "Then we better stay hidden." But hiding was getting harder. Food supplies were low. The energy cells were dying. And Lyra needed better medicine if her bones were to heal right. Mason knew he had to take a risk. "I'm going to the old wreck site tomorrow," he said. "The crashed shuttle?" She asked. "It's half buried. There might be med packs. Maybe batteries too. It's dangerous. I know. I'll come with you." "You can barely walk." "I can still shoot," Lyra said, her voice firm. Mason smiled. "You sound like one of us." "I'm not one of you," she said. "But I want to protect you, like you protected me." Early the next morning, they moved carefully through the trees. Lyra leaned on a metal rod as a cane. Mason stayed close, guiding her through thick roots and soft ground. They reached the edge of the wreck. Twisted metal rose from the earth like broken bones. Smoke still curled from the blackened hull, even after all this time. Fires had scorched the soil, but some things had survived. Mason climbed through a gap in the hull. "Stay here," he said. Lyra waited outside, gripping her small blaster. Her eyes scanned the trees. Every sound made her ears twitch. Her instincts whispered, "You're being watched." Inside, Mason found what he needed: part of a medkit, a solar charger, and sealed protein bars. Not much, but it could help them live a few more days. Then he heard it, a soft mechanical whine, the kind only a trained ear could catch. He turned sharply. A motion sensor blinked red. He cursed. "Tripwire." Outside, Lyra heard the sound too. Then saw the red beam shine from beneath the wreck. She didn't wait. She dropped her cane and rushed forward. Mason leapt out just as the mine clicked. She threw herself forward. The blast went off. Smoke, dirt, fire. Silence. Then a cough. Mason sat up, covered in mud. "Lyra!" She was beside him, holding her side. Blood leaked from her shoulder, but she was breathing. "You jumped in after me?" he asked, shocked. "You saved me once," she said through clenched teeth. "Now we're even." Mason looked at her bleeding arm. "That's not how it works," she smiled faintly. "Too late. I've already decided." Then she passed out in his arms again, and just like before, Mason picked her up, this time with fear tightening in his chest. Asterisk. The shelter felt colder than before. Mason placed Lyra on the cot and quickly cleaned the blood from her shoulder. The shrapnel wasn't deep, but the wound was messy. Her breathing was sharp and uneven. She didn't wake up. He pressed a clean cloth over the bleeding. His hands were steady, but inside he was panicking. "Come on, Lyra. Don't fade on me now." He used what little medicine he had left, the last injection from the medkit. A fever would come, he knew. And if it did, without more supplies, she might not survive this time. Hours passed. Mason didn't sleep. He sat by her side, watching her chest rise and fall. Sometimes she whispered in her sleep words from her language. Other times, her face twisted like she was fighting something in her mind. He wanted to help, but couldn't do more. By morning, she opened her eyes. Weak but awake. "You look terrible," she whispered. Mason laughed softly, relieved. "I've had better nights." She turned her head. "Did we get what we needed? Some food, some tools?" "Not enough." Her eyes searched his. then you'll have to leave me behind. No, Mason said sharply. I'm not doing that. I can't fight anymore, she said. I'm slowing you down. You're not just a soldier anymore, Lyra, he said. You're someone I care about. She blinked, her lips parting just slightly. Even if I'm broken? You're not broken, Mason said, voice low. You're healing. There was a pause. Then she looked down. Then promise me something, anything. If they find us, save yourself. He didn't answer. She looked up. Promise. Mason touched her hand gently. I promise to never give up on you. That's all I can say. She didn't argue, but deep inside, Lyra felt something new. Hope and fear. That evening, Mason climbed a ridge not far from the shelter. He turned on his signal beacon, the emergency one. He didn't want to. It could expose them. But he had no choice. She wouldn't survive another injury. She needed real medicine. He sent out the signal, then waited 30 minutes past an hour. Finally, a voice crackled back. This is Recon Unit 9. Who is transmitting? This is Mason Carter, he replied. Human tech specialist. Survivor. Confirm your ID code. He gave it. Silence. Then. Copy. We're tracking your location. Extraction. In 36 hours. Stay hidden. Mason turned off the beacon and slid back down the hill. Inside the shelter, Lyra sat up slowly. She looked at him. You called them. You need better help than me, he said. A real med team is coming. She didn't smile. Instead, she asked, what if they don't accept me? They will. You don't know that. You're with me, he said. That's all they need to know. But in the forest, far beyond the trees, something else was listening. A pair of eyes watched the smoke rising from Mason's shelter. Shape moved quiet and patient. The sweep team had found them, but it wasn't just machines. This time, it was her kind, and they were coming to erase the mistake. The forest was too quiet. Mason felt it in his bones as he checked the perimeter again. Birds had stopped singing. No wind moved the leaves. Only stillness and a sense that something was watching. Inside the shelter, Lyra sat upright now. Her wound was healing slowly. The fever had passed, but her energy hadn't returned fully. She could walk a few steps again, using the wall for support. She saw Mason re-enter, his jaw tight. They're close, aren't they? She asked. He didn't answer at first. Then he said, yes. Lyra's hands clenched the edge of the cot. How many? I don't know yet, but it's not just machines. They move too quietly. I think it's your kind, she nodded. Sweep teams. You said they erase survivors. They don't leave witnesses. Especially not ones who talk to the enemy. Mason walked over to her. They'll try to take you. Lyra looked up. No, they won't. He frowned. What do you mean? If they find me with you, they'll kill us both. But if I walk out first alone, they might take me back. You're not going back to them. She looked away. I'm not strong enough to fight them. You don't have to. I will. No, Lyra said. This is my past. My burden. You shouldn't die for me. He stepped closer. I'm not letting them erase you, Lyra. You're more than what they made you. She met his eyes. Then, what am I? He touched her face gently. You're someone worth saving. She closed her eyes. I wish I believed that. Later that night, they made a plan. If the sweep team reached them before the evac, Mason would trigger the emergency signal again. It would alert nearby satellites, maybe even scramble a fast response. It was risky, but it was all they had. Lyra sat near the cot, loading the last charge into her small blaster. Her fingers were steady, but her heart raced. She had killed many before, but this time, the enemy would look like her, speak like her. She didn't know if she could do it. Mason returned with a handmade claymore built from scrap parts and old explosives. If they breach the east wall, he said, this might slow them down. You're ready to kill them. I'm ready to protect you." Silence hung between them for a long time. Finally, Lyra said, "If I go outside and lie to them, they might leave you alone. And if they don't, then I die a traitor. I won't let that happen." She looked at him. "Why do you keep trying?" "Because you gave me something I didn't know I still had," he said softly. "A reason to fight, that's not about orders." Before she could speak again, the motion sensor beeped. Someone was near. Close. Mason grabbed his rifle. "East side." Lyra forced herself up. Her leg burned. Her shoulder ached. But she followed him outside, through the trees. Shadows moved. Then came a voice. Cold. Familiar. "Unit 4 survivor. Step forward. You are not cleared for contact with humans. Surrender immediately." Lyra froze. "I know that voice," she whispered. Tall female figure stepped from the shadows, flanked by 2 armored soldiers. Her armor was black and red elite colors. Her face was scarred, her eyes sharp. "Sister," the woman said, "you live." "That's unexpected." Lyra's voice cracked. "Commander Arnik, you broke protocol. Shared shelter with an enemy. And now you wear a human name?" Lyra stood straighter. "I chose it. Then you chose death." Mason raised his rifle. "She's not going anywhere with you." Arnik's eyes narrowed. "And you must be the soft creature she clings to. The one who made her weak." "She's not weak," Mason said. "She's human now, where it counts." Arnik gave a cold smile. "Then you can both die together." She raised her weapon, but Lyra stepped in front of Mason. "Then shoot me first," she said. Arnik hesitated. Lyra stared at her. "I'm not yours anymore." Then, for the first time, Lyra pointed her own weapon at her former commander. "You taught me to follow orders," she said. "But he taught me to choose." Her hand trembled, but her aim was true. Arnik lowered her weapon slightly, eyes burning. "With rage, then you are dead to us." Then she vanished back into the trees, leaving only silence. Lyra dropped her arm. Her knees buckled. Mason caught her. "You did it," he whispered. Tears ran down her cheeks. "I chose." Dawn broke over the forest, but the sky was gray. Smoke still drifted between the trees. Mason and Lyra sat quietly inside the shelter, backs against the wall, weapons across their laps. Neither of them spoke. They were both waiting. Mason checked the time on his cracked screen. 2 more hours, he said. "Extraction should be here by then." Lyra nodded, but her mind was heavy. She had turned her weapon on her own people. She had chosen a human over her command, her training, her past. But now, all she could think about was what came next. "I still feel like I betrayed something," she said softly. Mason looked at her. "You didn't betray anything. You broke free." She looked at her shaking hands. "But what am I now?" "You're someone who made a choice," he said. "That's what matters." A low humming sound reached their ears. Mason stood up. "Fast. That's not the evac ship." Outside, a dark shape moved through the trees, fast, armored, and silent. Lyra grabbed her weapon, pushing herself to her feet. "They came back," Mason cursed. "Not the whole team, just one." "Probably." "Arnik." They moved together, side by side, toward the outer door. The forest was still. But they knew something was hunting them now. Then she appeared. Commander Arnik stepped through the trees, holding a long rifle, her armor scorched but still deadly. She had come alone, but her eyes said enough. She was here to finish it. "You should have died in the field," Arnik said to Lyra. "Instead, you became this." "I became free," Lyra said. "And you hate that. You threw away your honor." "No," Lyra said, voice rising. "I found it." Arnik raised her weapon. Mason raised his. Then Lyra stepped forward. "No more killing," she said. "You want me? Then take me. But leave him alone." Mason grabbed her arm. "Don't," she turned to him. "You saved me once. Let me save you." Then she walked forward, arms open. Unarmed. Arnik aimed. But something changed. The evac ship appeared behind the trees, descending fast with engines roaring. The sound shook the ground. Light flashed. Soldiers dropped in a line, weapons ready. Put your weapon down, a human officer shouted. Arnik looked around. She was surrounded, but her gun didn't drop, until Lyra stepped even closer and whispered, "Please, don't die for your pride." Arnik looked at her one last time. Then, slowly, she lowered her weapon and disappeared into the forest shadows. Mason rushed to Lyra, grabbing her as she nearly collapsed. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I did," she replied, "because I'm not like her anymore." The soldiers reached them. Medics helped Lyra into the evac shuttle. Mason followed close, never letting go of her hand. Inside the ship, Lyra sat by the window, wrapped in a blanket. Her body was still weak, but her eyes were clear now, calm. Mason sat beside her. "You're going to be okay," he said. She nodded. "I feel lighter." "Good, you earned that." She looked at him. "Where will we go?" "Wherever you want," Mason replied. She smiled. "Then stay close." "I'm not going anywhere." Outside the window, the world faded into clouds as the shuttle rose higher. Lyra closed her eyes, holding his hand tightly. Her body had been broken, but now, her spirit was whole. And for the first time in her life, she was finally free.